Welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Melanie Curtis.
And I'm Jason Moletsky.
Thank you, legit, for joining us today.
Yeah, our mission is living and learning, laughing and loving together with you.
We're here to grow and contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust, trusting the entire journey.
Yeah, and on that journey, we often talk about plant medicines, psychedelics, and other avenues of healing. When we do, we are sharing for informational purposes only. We're not doctors or therapists, and we don't promote doing anything illegal.
Inside us all, we have a deep, powerful knowing. We encourage curiosity, healing, and exploration of this consciousness.
Damn straight. Together, our handle is trustthejourney.today. Individually, you can find her at melaniecurtis.com and me at jasonmoletsky.com.
Thank you all again so much for being with us. On to the show.
Melanie.
Jason.
Did you get a tattoo? You have a sleeve?
I know.
I was like, you got new sleeves. You look great with tattoos.
I love this shirt. This shirt totally looks like I have sleeves, and actually love it. Makes me look cooler, I think.
I love it. I was just
cooler than I actually am.
No, impossible. Impossible. Oh.
Oh my God, I love that we're jumping into this one. I was just before we started recording, team, I've been like yawning like crazy because I just got home last night really late from a like sort of solo vacation ski trip, but there was also some work attached. I kind of went to a 3-day conference ahead of that, and then on the win, sharing a win, really thrilled. Got to do an interview with Psychedelics Today. Joe Moore was on our show a while back. He's awesome. He's the founder of that platform and that sort of channel, and he's a great guy. And it was really wonderful to finally get to talk to him and sit down on his show and talk about just coming out of the psychedelic closet and just all the things that we do at Trust the Journey and just all the stuff about,
What is it that we do at Trust the Journey?
Exactly. Well, I think we talk about things that we think should be talked about. We talk about things that we think deserve amplification, not just psychedelics, but just, being a person, being a human. How are we striving, healing, seeking, you know what I mean? And also resting, recovering, loving ourselves, loving each other, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What does Trust the Journey mean to you?
What does Trust the Journey mean to you? Mean to me. See, God, that tells you how tired I am. I'm like, oh God. For me, obviously, it's a directive for me. You know what I mean? It's a reminder, constant reminder. It's an active reminder to me, that sentiment of surrender and trust of life and things that are beyond my awareness and beyond my control and beyond my current knowledge. So it's like, for me, it's a really supportive thing. The very active space of our show and our space and our relationships, you and me, Jay, it's a very pragmatic sort of manifestation of that, resting into this space, resting into, our relationship, resting into the things we talk about and the people that we get to connect with here. And I love it. I really love it. It's really, really supportive for me. It always has been. What about you?
Oh, well, there's a big sigh. What's my relationship? What is Trust the Journey to me? Well, I think there's this phrase that comes to mind, and it's "Look, Ma, no handlebars." Right? And so, what does that mean? What is this? What am I trying to say? Well, I think all of us can relate to the idea of riding a bicycle. It's an analogy I use a lot in my classroom when I'm teaching people how to fly.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it's not really hard to ride a bike with no handlebars. If you can ride a bike, you can pretty much ride it with no handlebars. You just need to be willing to let go, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to be willing to trust, and you got to keep your speed up. Like, you've got to allow the vehicle to stay in motion, right? And so this idea of like control the machine by like gripping the bars, like white knuckling, like holding on, is not trusting the journey, right? Like, I'm not relaxed at all. I'm not letting the bike do the work. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to control it. So this thing of like, look, no handlebars, it's this letting go of my control over the destiny that this life has for me, that the universe has for me, and accepting I'm not animating myself, right? I am animate. I am part of the animate world. Plants are growing, the sun is rising, the sun is setting, the moon is rising, the moon is setting, the tides come in and out, air comes in and out of my lungs. I'm not really in control of any of this. So the bike is going,
Mm-hmm.
and I can try to grip on and like control the bike, or I can just recognize I don't really need to. I can just sit on the seat and enjoy the ride and just cruise along and accept the bumps as they come and just be grateful. Just be grateful that I'm here getting to ride the bike, getting to experience life, getting to be able to have a voice, getting
Mm-hmm.
to have a relationship with a fantastic teammate, business partner, and reflecting on our journey through this outlet to our community, our friends, our loved ones, to our audience who care to engage and care to connect through this medium.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what a journey. I mean, like, I know that sounds cliche, but like, what a path this has been, you know? And I know that our intention for today's show is to reflect, to sort of do our annual review, to share about our thoughts on this last year and reflecting on the journey as a whole. Um, yeah, God. Every time we do this, I feel like it hits me, uh, the expansiveness of this project. Like, it's amazing to me that we've been doing this over 6 years. I'm really, really proud of us. Like, we have built something that is very real, that's very strong. We're now getting a lot of people reaching out to us, asking to be on the show. Like, that's a clear, sort of obvious data point, as it were, to show that we are making an impact in the world and in the wider world. So that's pretty cool. Um, I just also reflect on how much it has taken to show up, and this year in particular. And just for you guys listening, Jay and I have already done our annual review session. So we've really sat down with each other and dug in deep with each other on the last year. And one of the things I can't not mention is we have worked really hard this year. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel it. I am
Yeah.
smoked. I acknowledge that I'm a little burned out. Not on the show and the mission and the message and all the things that we care about. That I feel like is just so powerfully values driven for me that I always feel connected to that. But meaning the work, you know what I mean? Like the actual work that it takes to produce all the new guest episodes, to get guests on board, to honor those guests with integrity and communication, to upgrade music and branding and put ourselves out there, run the Trust the Journey integration circles, which I also really love. There's a lot going on, and it's I just always like to note that very publicly, because it really is a lot of work, and I just feel that deserves acknowledgement. You know, thank you for showing up, and thank like Snoop and his thing. I'd like to thank me You know, I'm thanking me, man. I'm thanking me too.
Thanks, me, for showing up. You worked your butt off on this one. Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, this is our annual review episode, and part of this process it's a very healthy process to with consistently at the same time every year do a inventory of self and a review of collective vision, mission, and goals, and look at like what was the goals of this project this year? What was the vision? What was the mission? What are we trying to get from it? What's its value? What does it give back? What does it cost? What's the overhead involved as far as man hours, woman hours, resources, finances, the total investment into the project, and what's the return look like? And then, getting to the present moment going, is this something that I can care to continue to do? And does it reap the rewards to me that feel like it's a good value return? So this is episode number 170, which is awesome. It's super awesome.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Getting there, right? Consistency, right? That's like 99% of the game is just showing up.
Showing up, exactly. Oh God, that thread easily is something to touch on, in the sense that you see it a lot, where people will start a project and they'll be excited at the beginning and this and that, but they will lose steam for whatever reason, and there's no judgment on that. That's like
I'm judging myself so hard right now. You have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it plenty. Oh my God. Well, I mentioned my like little solo retreat thing. My intention was to ski and to write, and I couldn't fucking write at all. I was just like, oh, so smoked, so tired, and just like really honoring that where I was at. You know what I mean? And I feel like that we do such a good job with that, I think, in our annual reviews, but even in our quarterly touch points, our weekly meetings where we connect and just check in where we actually are, how we're actually doing. I think that's a huge reason why we're successful, and also what makes this project a safe one, because it's not our full-time job. You know what I mean? And
even I got to jump in. It's not actually a job; it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
because there's no paycheck involved in it, so it's completely falls into the category of hobby, right?
Yeah, passion project, however you want to call it. But the reason I point to that is that that's important in the sense that we need that safety in order to not feel pressure to have this have to be whatever it's going to be. And I really acknowledge us for that also, because I think that's a big part as to why we have been able to persist for this long and do as much as we have so far.
Yeah. So I'll just share this, and I may have shared it in previous episode a year ago or 2 years ago, but worth mentioning again is one of the skills that I got from being part of one of the world's top performing teams was this process of annual review of goal setting, right? First of all, of goal setting, of clarifying clear goals and objectives for the year, and then budgeting those goals. And when I say budgeting, I mean allocation of time, allocation of energy, allocation of resources, like really looking at like, are these goals achievable with the team that we have, the resources that we have, the finances we have, the time that we have, and then calendaring them and breaking it all out and really saying, this is how we're going to get there. And then checkpointing on the way there to make sure everything's on track to be able to achieve them. And then at the end of the year, reviewing the success rate. And what I've typically seen is it's like an 80-20 kind of ratio, is like 80% of the goals are accomplished and 20% of them get split up into a couple different categories, where 10% they weren't really priorities. They were just kind of tag-ons or add-on things we thought were important, or they get rolled over into the next year because we haven't reached that milestone yet, but we're still on the way there. So learning that process and carrying it year over year over year over year. It's been 24 years now, going into 25 years that I've been utilizing that for myself and bringing it with me wherever I go, right? I brought it to Trust the Journey. I've brought it to my other partnerships and endeavors and relationships. And it's been an incredibly powerful tool and skill to utilize. But and why am I sharing this is because this whole point of end of year reflection and review and looking back, I think, Mel, you sent me a meme or a share the other day that was somebody of influence saying, pick one big thing that you want to do this year. So when you say, what'd you do in 2025? You can say, I did this, and we both have lives, careers, multiple journeys that say, and this year I did this, and this year I did this. And this whole episode is about that concept. It's about how do we clarify within ourselves what's important enough to us to push it to the top of the pile in relationship to all the other things that are important to us, enough so that when we sit down at the end of 2025 and you and I look each other in the eye and say, how did we do achieving our goals this year? We can do it with the authenticity that says, this was important to me, I committed to it, and this is the end result that we saw because I cared, because it was
that objective, looking at what occurred. This happens in life coaching all the time too, iteratively, is we set goals, we set accountability, we take actions, we don't take actions, things happen, things don't happen, and we then objectively touch back on what did we say, how do our actions align, what occurred that maybe derailed this action or changed it in some way, not in a good way or bad way, who knows, but really just being that objective observer. And that's one thing that I love that you bring to the table, Jason, with our partnership, is the data, right? Like, that's so not as much my bag, even though I totally believe in it. Like, I just don't enjoy collecting it. But every time you bring it to the table, to our sessions and whatnot, it's so powerful, obviously, like, duh. So it's been exciting to see our trajectory with listens. It's super cool to see that sort of growing, exponentiating curve. So there's excitement for me around that reach. And there's also questions about where do we want to take this from here? You know what I mean? What do we want it to look like? How much of our time do we want to dedicate to this, given it is not bringing in a large amount of revenue? It just basically breaks even. And, I would love to see Trust the Journey grow financially. I'm not going to lie. I would love to see that. Would love to see sponsors and, but really mostly I would love to see the Trust the Journey family grow more, because the community, the connecting, is really what is at the core base for me in terms of value, and why I really love this.
Yeah. So I'm going to be completely transparent with the audience, because I feel like that's a core strength of just transparency and vulnerability. Is this show costs between $5,000 to $8,000 a year to produce at its current level, right? And that is strictly just covering the costs of production. There's no payout of any kind to Melanie and I for that. We don't go home with a paycheck. And it really just kind of scrapes by in a lot of areas where we have to kind of nickel and dime a little bit to keep things within budget, so that we can actually, end up at the end of the year in the black, which is our goal, And we would love to see this show grow financially to where we had more leverage and more resources to be able to work to bring in bigger name guests, to be able to do higher levels of production. But it falls for me. I was just consulting with a friend of mine. He's saying, hey, I want to start this new project. I got this idea, And I'm like, well, what is this? Is this an art project where you want to do something because you like to create something? Is it like a hobby where you're going to do it over and over again and you expect no return, right? Like you're just going to spend your money to play. And then at the end, you'll have less money, but you'll have fun playing. Or is it a charity, like a nonprofit, where you're going to pour in a bunch of time and energy so that others receive a value from it? And then you also get remunerated for your time, where you get paid for working in that entity? Or is it a for-profit entity? And as of the current status, this endeavor for the last 6-7 years has been a hobby where it has generated no revenue. It's just been a give back to each other, to ourselves, and to our community. And we've been totally happy to do that.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. And I think part of being energetically and just, connected to the things that we're doing in such a way that they, and I mean, guys listening, we are the primo examples of people who can be gritty and will do things and do hard things. So it's not that we're not afraid of hard things. Like, we're so on board with hard things. I certainly am. And I believe in what that delivers me. And, for me, one of the things with this year, I recognize there's a focus in my career that I've mentioned in the show before, that I'm really sort of centered around my speaking career. This is certainly a part of my speaking career, being a credible voice here. So I recognize the connection there as well. I'm more just acknowledging that because that's where a lot of my intentional career focused energy is going in recent months, recent years, last couple of years. And honestly, I think also the way to keep projects and ourselves healthy is to acknowledge what's true. And I mean, when Jay and I had our meeting, I had to acknowledge I am really tired. Like, I need a little bit more energy back from Trust the Journey, and I feel great about this part of our conversation because, like I said, we worked really hard this last year. We had so much growth in terms of how many guests we had on, but we also, and I say we, but I'll speak for myself, I certainly was on the growth curve of learning what it actually takes to schedule guests and to do that, to show up in its space differently. Just there's a lot more that goes into it, and it's not hard stuff. It's just more. And so that was an impact on my other places where I could spend my energy. And I'm really quite clear that I want to spend a little bit less energy on Trust the Journey this coming year so that I can feel a bit more balanced in my other areas, but not from a lack of love, not from a lack of faith in the project and the impact that we're making. I actually feel that it'll benefit Trust the Journey if we sort of just honor ourselves and that sort of real human need that's emerging.
Yeah, the quality over quantity mentality is something that I think as we grow older, we start to really become more attuned to. As young people, it's easy to just want to do more, and just feel really full all the time because of quantity. Where as we mature, that feeling of fullness, my cup is full, doesn't come from, it doesn't feel like it's filled by just having more things in it, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like same for me moving forward. I'm very excited about the future for Trust the Journey, but I also feel myself pulling back on the reins a little bit to really pace the horses so that they can maintain for the long haul. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And similar to you, I'm starting a new business right now, and it is demanding a lot of my time and energy, and it's going to be more and more challenging to be able to navigate the scheduling of guests and the interviewing and all the behind the scenes admin that has to go on to produce the show, along with throttling up that new business. So if you're interested in paragliding, come to Moab and come fly with me at Paraglide Moab. You can find us on Instagram or look up the website, paraglidemoab.com, and you can come and fly with us. We'll be offering flights starting March 1st, 2025. And I'll be happy to talk to you about Trust the Journey while we're flying.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wrapped audience.
Yeah. We can talk all you want during the flight. It'll be great. But yeah, I feel like at this point, what this show means to me is so much. It's huge, right? Like, I think first, this is a real moment. I just want to say a true gratitude moment to everybody who listens.
Absolutely.
And everybody who supports the show in every way that you do, whether that's by clicking like or clicking subscribe or sending a message or a comment or reaching out to one of us directly. Those things are huge because that's the inspiration. Like, what's the give back is when Mel and I copy and paste little messages with the names clipped off. That's just the context of a text to be like, hey, this is what somebody sent me today, you know, and the positive influence that has on our community, right? Mm-hmm. And the actual community, the family that's formed around the interest in looking back in at our own journey and connecting together in the walking each other home mentality and being like, hey, we're just all on a big bike ride together. Let's just recognize it and be part of it and be grateful. So this deep gratitude moment. Thank you. If you're one of our Patreon supporters, oh my gosh, you guys have been critical.
Yes.
You know who you are. I'm looking at you right now, my friends. Thank you for your Patreon support. This show wouldn't continue without your support.
Yeah.
So deep
it
gratitude.
Really wouldn't. Yes. Yeah. I echo that completely. And I love that. I just acknowledging that truth. Like, it really is, it's a real truth that, like, this happens, yes, because we show up here and because we're committed. And it also happens because of you who support us. It is a big deal. Like, I am so thankful for that because, again, had this show ended after year 2, that's fine. Jay, you and I would have been fine. Like, we would have gone on and done other stuff and, found ways to connect and all this stuff. But the fact that, you guys who are our Patreon supporters are showing up and really, like, genuinely being there for us, both, yes, monetarily, but also showing up in the Trust the Journey family and circles. It means so much. And it really, for me, absolutely also is why we're still here 6-7 years later.
Yeah, agreed.
The sponsor of today's episode is Great Spirit Farm. Yes. Love having Great Spirit Farm with us, and specifically their Ayahuasca microdose tincture. It is a natural MAOI antidepressant and anti-anxiety. Great Spirit Farm describes the feeling as a warm hug. It can help you access deep creativity, flow, intuition, and improve vivid dream recall, which actually has totally been my experience.
So what is exactly in the bottle is the ayahuasca vine itself. So this is a tincture extraction, double extraction tincture that contains the Banisteriopsis caapi vine. Now, the particular vine that this has been extracted from has been growing in Florida now for over 25 years. And the ayahuasca vine does not contain DMT, so that makes this tincture 100% legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, Great Spirit Farm recommends starting with 1 to 3 dropperfuls and increasing your dose gradually from there until you feel the effects. There are no known contradictions with antidepressants, and always check with your doctor and only take as directed.
And what's really great about what Great Spirit Farm is doing is they're making sure that 10% of all the sales are returned to the Shipibo tribe, honoring the medicine's indigenous roots with active reciprocity. Now, if you want to try this tincture out for yourself, you can go to the website that is ayadose.com, AYADOSE.com, And you can enter our discount code TTJ10 to get 10% off your order. Again, that's ayadose.com and all caps TTJ10 to get 10% off your order. So, annual review and looking forward into 2025. We're very excited because we've been doing some behind the scenes work to continue to evolve the look, the feel, the flavor, the production of the podcast. And so very much excited about how things are going to be growing and developing in the future very soon.
Yes.
So thanks to those of you who are stepping up in the background, and I will acknowledge you personally, Sam Botner and Lars Leineman. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see our finished products when they come around.
Oh. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about just the feel, the music, just like, very excited for this sort of level up. And that's in line with the quality over quantity intention that we are going forward into 2025 with. What I think is hilarious also, I have to just touch on this quickly, is Isra Garcia was one of our just most cherished episodes of the year. He is just wonderful. I loved every second of his time. And the other thing that Isra did for us, he was very generous in sharing potential guests, like other people that we could reach out to that he thought would be a good fit for our show and would be open potentially because of his warm introduction to come on. And that's so wonderful. Like that helps us so much to continue to grow, continue to add amazing value, continue to connect as we do when we get to have beautiful guests on. Anyway, why I bring that up is to acknowledge Isra and thank him for that. And also to laugh at when we got a bunch of those things, we started to do guest scheduling for 2025 before we had our annual review meeting and sort of got clear that we were going to scale back and publish fewer episodes. That's sort of the intention for 2025, is that how do we scale back the workload? Well, we scale back the amount of publication and then we'll be ahead. We'll have that sort of expansive space around just the publication work. So we get to have an episode that is ready and it doesn't publish till March. Like that gives us a lot of real space for our lives outside of Trust the Journey. So anyway, what we did is we've got a bunch of guests scheduled. And so we have a lot of sort of upcoming stuff that is funny because it's sort of in the energy of how we were rolling in 2024. And so it's most likely going to give us that expansive space. But I think it's funny because the first month of actually the last couple weeks of the year and the first month of 2025 is no joke. There's a lot of interviews that we're doing that we'll see when they publish.
Yeah, it's stacking up.
Yeah.
I think I want to take a quick pause because I'm in this like kind of gratitude swirling through all the different people that make this happen, whether it's you, Melanie, or whether it's our supporters, our direct family who always make the time and space for us. I don't want to fail to mention our editor, Sandinil.
Yes.
So Sandinil's been supporting us for a few years now, and he's behind the scenes. Nobody gets to see him, but he's just definitely shown up in every way that he possibly can while he's been busy working on his own degrees in school. And so thank you, Sandinil, for your big effort in the last few years of bringing Trust the Journey to everybody's ears and eyes. We couldn't have done it without you, and we look forward to the future together as well.
Yes, I wrote down Sandinil on my list too. I love that you brought him up. Sandinil, yes, I hope you are hearing this. I know you are at some point. Man, you bring so much love to our team also. Like, I really so appreciate you and what you bring as a teammate. It's not just that you edit our shows, you're also really delightful to work with. Like, I so appreciate your positive energy. That does not go unnoticed, and it's a huge, huge value to us. So, yeah, everybody listening, Sandinil's the bomb. And, yeah, we love you, my friend. Thank you.
So Melanie was touching on the concept, but we're aiming to reduce our publication schedule for 2025 because we want to maintain quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have other goals in our lives. So I'd be curious. I am always a curious person. I love to stay in this curious mindset and be like looking at the different potentials. I'd like to hear from our listeners about what you would like either more of that we've been doing already, or ideas. If you have an idea for somebody to be on the show, or a show around a particular topic, or a way to engage with us in a way that would be serving, we'd love to hear those things. That really helps in our decision making about where to put the precious time that we do have in order to make sure that it's really serving our audience, because that's what we're here to do, right? We're here for our own personal growth and journey
Mm-hmm.
first, and as servants to our community as right alongside.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I echo that completely. Before I forget, you mentioned the reel that I had sent you about, and it was just so that I touch on this. It was from Jesse Itzler, who is Sarah Blakely's husband. So Jesse Itzler is a really successful entrepreneur. He's an amazing speaker himself. I really love his content. He's really a just super positive dude, real deep liver of life, and very much goes for it. And I really love that about him and his stuff. I also, of course, love Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx and Sneaks. She's the best. Really, really love her. Encourage you to follow both of those people. But Jesse's post that I shared with Jay was about misogi. It's about setting one life-changing goal, or do one life-changing thing every year. So maybe it's a goal, or maybe it's an experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be a long-term goal that requires a bunch of work. It can also be a singular experience that also changes you in some way or contributes to your transformation.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely starting a new business for me next
Yeah.
year in
Oh, and sorry.
2025.
Sorry, Jay, I want to jump in. Life
Please.
changing. I said life changing. It's actually life defining.
Life
Is
defining.
life defining. So like there's an interesting distinction around that. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
So think about that. For those of you listening, consider that. I really resonate with that idea because, it's again, this, you just said it, Jay, the preciousness of our life, the preciousness of the absolutely valuable, invaluable time that we have, the finite time and life force that we have. Where do we decide to deploy that, to put it? What does it look like? What are we doing? Who are we with? Those questions, I think, as we get older, become more and more present. When we're younger, they're less so, and not that that's a good or bad thing, but it's just something I'm noting where I am much more thoughtful about where I spend my time and energy. And I'm also still reckoning with lots of different versions of autopilot where I have to dismantle that stuff. And so anyway, this idea of setting these big goals, or this misogi, or whatever it is, life defining, that to me helps me interrupt those patterns in a powerful and useful way.
So I just got off of another call. I was with James LeBerry. We did a 20-minute call podcast, just recorded recently, this morning. So that'll come out on the air sometime soon, I'm sure. And during that conversation, we were talking about something very similar, is these like life defining moments, things that like alter our paths. And I couldn't help but talk about my decision in the middle of my career, at the height of my career, like right at the time where things were like, I was so busy and there was so much going on, to take a sabbatical and to leave for 6 months and go completely off the air and be out of touch with my entire life, air quotes, my life, actually my career, my avocation, like step away from the things I was doing, the autopilot part of self. and get back in touch with my life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
going and walking the Appalachian Trail in 2012 was this huge, huge life defining thing, because the success rate on that is incredibly low.
Yep.
It's a very, very small percentile of people who attempt it who actually finish it. And the how do I say this? How I viewed myself and how I feel about myself after completing that is very different than the way I viewed myself before. It changed me as a person. And I can look at this podcast, this project, the same way and say, deciding to take on a public voice and deciding to be open and vulnerable and deciding to speak my truth into a public forum is just as life defining of a decision as taking a sabbatical and walking thousands of miles across a mountain range across the country. And the value that comes back from hiking the Appalachian Trail is not monetary, right? Like, I don't make it money. I think it cost me like $30,000 to do that, because I have to pay, for my mortgage and all the things during the same time. And the same thing with this project. This project hasn't earned me a dime, but the value, the return that comes from choosing into this misogi, that's at this life defining venture, is immeasurable, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm behind you right now, my second monitor. There's a panoramic picture of the most beautiful valley in Norway, and I'm standing on the right side of the frame over here, cheering, butt naked, holding a Norwegian flag over the parts. And I keep this on my screen here because this is another one of those things. It's another one of those reminders of like, look at the joy that we can realize in our journey by choosing into things of value in our life, and saying, I'm going to choose to go after this because it's important to me, not because it's going to make me money, not because it's going to make me famous, not because whatever story we want to tell ourselves that we may have been told is important, but because it feels important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel that way about 75 Hard. Like, I really felt changed
I could see that
at the end of that. It's how that then translates into what we do beyond that is almost irrelevant. It is relevant. I'm not saying it's not relevant. I'm more saying it doesn't have to be, or it can or it can't be. But I will say this, like, having that experience at the end, finishing and having that emotional release, and just like, honestly, and we've talked about this for sure on the show, the experience of awe, like truly of awe. Like, I could not believe that I did that, and that is an experience of awe. And so sometimes when I pick, misogi type things, whether it's 75 Hard or writing a new book or showing up on this show and celebrating our 6th, 7th year, whatever, it's like, that's a experience for me of awe, and an experience of myself that is supportive of my future self. You know what I mean? So if we go and in this annual review process, it really supports the idea and the practice of reflection. Annual reflection helps us and allows us to see larger swaths of our achievement, of our time spent, of our energy spent, of what we've done. And that is a different reflection than a weekly one or a monthly one or a quarterly one, right? And those things are valuable and super important too, but they're different than the larger swath. So imagine if you think about yourself 10 years ago, who were you 10 years ago? You know what I mean? What is it? 2024,
totally
right? 2014.
Different. Oh my
Holy
gosh.
shit. My whole life was entirely different. It's wild to think that way. And also when we put the frame on it, the supportive frame on it, where we're like, okay, over the last 10 years, my life's totally different, but maybe let me reflect on, what did I achieve, or what did I accomplish, or what am I proud of over the last year or the last 5 years or the last 10 years, so that you can acknowledge yourself and have that as fuel and as insight that goes into the next misogi or the next goal that you might set for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what keeps coming to mind for me right now is I'm thinking about an image that I saw of the sun, where somebody took a photograph of the sun at the same time every single day for 365 days of the year. And what it makes is an infinity symbol in the sky, where it's a little bit higher, a little bit over to the side, back again. So it makes a figure 8 infinity symbol. And it just reminded me, this thought was coming to mind because of this idea of annual reflection of this. It's just the loop just keeps going over and over and over again. Like it's just infinited. Like this winter solstice is upon us right now. It's this short days, the temperature's cold, and it's this time for moving in the northern hemisphere. It's this time for moving inward, where we're outside a little less and there's more darkness. So there's more time to be inside. The temperature is getting cold, which means snuggling up more, which means bundling up more, like swaddling, being under those blankets. And I've always found that this time of year is a really, literally the design of the system, of the planets, of the stars, is to like bring us back in for a period of regrowth, where we take more time to rest, we take more time to nourish, we take more time for the seed to be in the ground, kind of thing, and for ourselves to regenerate, so that when the spring comes back around again, that we've got a clear direction to grow in.
Yeah.
That we know where we want to put our energy and what we want to see coming from our life during that period of growth, which, if in relationship to the sun, which is the literal provider of all energy on Earth, all life is coming from the energy of the sun. As those those days get longer and longer, and months turn from spring to summer, how are we going to be employing that opportunity within ourselves, and having taken the time to look inward and to reflect on previous journeys, on previous laps around the same circuit, and going, okay, I've done this before. What do I want this time? How do I want to be more graceful with myself? Where do I want to push myself more, to challenge myself more? And who and where and how do I want to live this life?
Yeah, for sure. To share personally, it's all connected in this very beautiful, kind of comical and beautiful and curious way, that one of the threads for me has been this thread of performance, which is it has taken a multitude of different ways. Like there are, and this is something I've looked at in ayahuasca ceremonies, and just something I've really looked at. And now, of course, with my speaking, I'm talking a lot about peak performance. I care a lot about flow. I'm excited about the edges of our personal and human potential. All that excites me. And also there's a thread of the dark side of that for me, where one of my very first breakthroughs in therapy was around this performativeness of having to be on and being so deeply, deeply exhausted by that. So I'm still for sure in the quote unquote work and movement and healing of that and understanding of that for myself personally. How this relates to trust the journey is that I recognize that I want and need a little less performative pressure from this space, which is why the shorter or the fewer episodes will help with that. You know what I mean? Because it's not that I feel performative pressure when I show up in a conversation with you or with a guest. I love that. It's more for me about workload. And it's like, okay, that's a thing. But I also recognize with my goal of growing as a speaker and growing that piece of my career, it is requiring me to quite literally perform in a way that I want to grow. You know, it's also requiring me to perform in ways that I have not really ever done in my career, which is do a bunch of cold outreach. And like, I'm doing all this stuff that is in service to this sort of bigger goal that I have for myself. And I get that I'm like, it requires more energy of me, period. I need my quote unquote peak performing self over here. And so therefore, without sacrificing or doing a disservice to trust the journey, I need in this current chapter to do less here so that it stays rich, true, and real, right? Honoring myself in the space while also honoring the space itself and our connection with others and each other. So that's really notable for me, is that whole performance thread, and where I need to scale back places that are requiring me to perform, but that performance energy in a positive sense is required elsewhere.
Awesome. What are your plans for 2025 with regards to your own personal growth and challenge in these areas, specifically around those like touch points?
Yeah, thanks for asking. One of my goals for speaking is to book 2 paid gigs a month in 2025. And I set that as a goal because it's sort of a 10x type goal, in the sense where it will require me to be a different person than I have ever been, right? It will require me to get out of my own way in ways that I haven't been able to, do in the past, AKA like I just mentioned, the sort of outreach and stuff like that, on top of the content creation and all of that stuff. Again, I'm in this growth process. I've got coaches and I'm working on it. I feel really good about it. And I see the growth happening, and it's hard. It's definitely hard. You know what I mean? But I'm hustling. I feel good about that. I don't even know. And this is something I put out on my Instagram a while back about, I actually think I did share it on the show, but in brief, I was torturing myself with this goal. And I'm like, I'm going to commit to it fully. I'm going to finally commit to it fully, get good at this, get good at it. And then if I still am tortured by it and I don't want to do it, then I can stop and redirect my career. But I feel very compelled. I feel quite just clear, super clear, that I do not and I cannot leave this on the table. You know what I mean? Like, this is just something I have to see through, whether I don't continue it in the long term or not. But continuing to leave it as an open loop for me is now becoming obvious that that's like a thorn in my side in a way.
Yeah. Interesting.
What about you? Other Paraglide Moab, of course.
Well, I think it's important to talk. There's a couple things there, actually. I want to say one is that this year, collectively, we decided to close down the Desert Soul Collective project. So we wrapped that in its entirety. The business is now defunct. It's closed down. All the bank accounts and credit cards and all the things are like dissolved. And that is now got a bow on it. And it's a very nice, because even though it's bittersweet, like just the other day, I sent the final papers over to my business partner and be like, here you go, please sign these and then send them to this address. And that's it. It's done. You'll get our tax papers in the mail, and it's a finished project. And I kind of wanted to reflect back on that, because this whole thing of like every journey having a beginning, a middle, and an end, the storyline to them is really powerful to remember. And I'm incredibly grateful for that project. It brought me a lot of joy, awesome relationships, excellent creative outlets, teamwork, really challenging endeavors. And it brought community together in so many ways. And it's really been, I'm really happy that I did that, and I'm really grateful to my teammates and partners in that project for that journey, and really proud of what we created along the way.
Beautiful.
I like to mention that because I'm putting a bow on one thing, and this is a deep inner practice here that I'm taking the time to mention, is I'm starting something new. And so I committed to myself to like finish that project with the period on the end of the sentence before diving headlong into the next project.
Nice.
You know? So as I'm moving through December here, I'm ahead of schedule on that one. Good job, Jay. That's done. There's nothing left to do. I can go clear-headed into the next project. And literally what you just said, I've spent the last 7 years really pouring myself into paragliding for a few reasons. One is it's really good for me. There's things we learn about ourselves in life, which is I need to be outside a lot. It's really good for me to be outside. Flying is something I love to do. And I needed to find another way to fly other than skydiving and base jumping because the physical impact and risk reward was not paying off anymore.
Yep.
And so having to choose out of something where I have a huge amount of strength, like real skill sets, and then like, how can I keep some of those skill sets in place and shift them over to another venture in my life, another skill set where I still get to utilize what I've learned, but it's a completely new world and it's a completely new way of leveraging those skills and all kinds of new skills to learn at the same time. So it's been 7 years before I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to move into a professional version of this activity.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy to say that the subconsciously, those decisions to just go fly over the last few years have have served my mental and physical and spiritual health very well.
Yeah.
It's been the right choice for me every single time I've said, thanks for the meeting. I got to go outside and go hike up that hill and go fly back down because my physical body feels better afterwards. My mental health is better afterwards.
Yeah.
By going and getting rigorous cardiovascular exercise in fresh air, in nature, and then participating in a flow sport, a flow state for even a few minutes just to get back down to the car, that process has bolstered my mental, physical, and spiritual health to the point where I feel like I can handle closing one business and feel okay about it, and opening a new business and maintaining another project while maintaining another, like having all these irons and all these fires. I can keep that going because I've got these healthy endeavors and skills in place to be able to moderate and manage the physical body journey.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You have worked so hard. You have clearly, and I love this. Again, one of the best compliments I ever received was Mel has amazing boundaries. And
you do.
And you do as well. And I think that's really wonderful. It clearly serves the things that actually keep you healthy, like going out, you know what I mean? Skiing for me, you know what I mean? I'm not pursuing it in a professional way, but it's something that for my own happiness, mental health, physical health, flow state activity, being in nature, it's like a really, really big deal for me. And I make time for it. I totally make time for it.
I love the fact that you told me I'm unavailable for the last week so that you're like, I'm skiing. Don't reach out. Don't message me with a work question. I'm skiing. I'm busy and I'm the same way. It's critical.
It is. It is. And I'm thrilled for you that it's evolved into a business venture that you're excited about and that it's, showing signs of just already, people wanting to do this with you. I love that. That's wonderful. You know what I mean? It's not unlike us and this is a seemingly potentially divergent thought, but it's similar to us as psychedelic healing advocates. I mean, this is not something I do as a major piece of my work, but I definitely help people. Well, we're in people who are in my network who haven't been able to get questions answered, or they're afraid to ask questions. They don't know where to go. I've done calls with people. You know what I mean? It's not a ton of money. It's something I charge quite a low amount for based on my other coaching rates, but it's like, it's an example of, this is very true. I want to help people with this. I want this to be a conduit, like, for people to access these ideas that, were difficult for me to access in a similar way. I want to be an open door for that. And so that's an example for me of like where I never thought that would happen, but like, oh, I'm a credible source and my time is valuable. So here, let's talk if you want. And I'm happy to answer any questions I have and point you to resources that we have available, Trust the Journey being one of them, among others. So yeah, anyway, I digress.
So let me just pivot off that a little bit, is that, we lived through the tail end of the Industrial Revolution. And then what has followed it has been the information age, right? And what's happening right now is the consciousness evolution. It's obvious in the computing world that AI is exploding, meaning consciousness is developing outside of our bodies right now. And surprise, surprise, consciousness is everywhere outside of our bodies, right? It's in the trees, it's in the air, it's in this, believe it or not, it's in the rocks, it's in the water, it's in the sky, it's in the fire. Consciousness is ever present. And so I think what's super exciting for me right now is recognizing that the consciousness evolution is at the foreground of, we are at the foreground of the consciousness evolution, and getting to have a voice in that, getting to be somebody who feels comfortable enough and confident enough to just say, this has been my consciousness evolution. This is what I'd like us to all talk about together. Let's talk about our consciousness. Let's explore our consciousness. Let's connect our consciousness. Let's be real about our consciousness. And this, advocate for, air quotes, advocate for consciousness, for being conscious to our own journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Collectively.
Amen. God, what a world.
Crazy ride. It's only getting weirder.
We watched The Wizard of Oz the other day because just somebody in our family had not seen it. And one thing I didn't notice was when the Wicked Witch of the West gets the water thrown on her, she melts, and as she's melting, she's like, what a world, what a world, what a world. And it became a thing that we're like saying. And obviously this, at the time of this recording, the Wicked is out in the world. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it is amazing. It is beautiful. All I want to do is make Instagram reels and sing Defying Gravity. It's wonderful. I love it. So I encourage people to go see it if they haven't.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, is there anything else on our annual review list? I'm sure there's always more we could talk about. What did we not touch on?
I really just want to close with, and again, an encouragement to our audience to reach out to us through whatever means is most comfortable to you, and let us know how you feel about this show, about maybe how it's impacted you, how you'd like to engage it more, what value it brings, any type of connection at all. That's what the show is about the deeper connection with ourselves. And I don't view us as individual beings. We're all collective consciousness together. So I'd like to hear from you about this journey.
Please, you
your
guys.
Journey.
Please. Yeah, please. It really makes a difference for us to hear that stuff. It also really makes a difference for is having curiosity. So that, like we said, the questions, what you'd like to see, maybe just like, I don't know, what do you think about what we shared today about how we're thinking of proceeding this coming year? I really value any time anyone reaches out. So if you are thinking, oh, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to this or that, so that's something I would think before sending a message to someone that I, either listen to or admire or whatever. But please send it anyway. We would love to hear from you, and we love you.
We love you.
There's that.
Yeah, I know we love you.
We love you for real.
Thank you for being part of our audience in 2024, and we wish you the very best year to come, 2025.
Thank you, everyone, seriously, for listening, for spending your valuable, valuable time, energy, and heart with us. Every bit of it makes a difference.
Yeah, thank you. We would love it if you could show your support for the show by subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or follow us on Instagram. You can always click the like button, leave us a comment, or share an episode with somebody directly.
Like we mentioned, every month we host integration coaching circles. So much good work is happening there. You are invited to join us. Go to trustthejourney.today/integration. The Trust the Journey family includes these integration coaching circles and our private Facebook group where we connect and support each other. Join us by going to our website, trustthejourney.today, and click the orange Patreon button.
Yeah, thanks. It's your support and engagement that make the show possible. Thank you. We're here to connect with you. Feel free to DM us anytime on Instagram. We're at trustthejourney.today. Thank you. We love you.
We love you.
Keep laughing, keep loving, and keep trusting the journey.